Good morning. My name is Brother John, and you're watching Numinous Wind. Today, we are going to be talking about intuition in some of the other segments. I talked about mystical experiences, and I mentioned this business of intuition. What exactly do we mean when we talk about intuition? Most of us have a basic idea of what intuition is. For instance, if I count to 100 and somebody tells me to keep on counting, I can keep on counting. If I had the ability to count to 1,000,000, I could do so. Would there be numbers after 1,000,000? Yes, there would. Our intuition tells us that the numbers are endless. This is what we might call a natural intuition. Um, some other examples of this kind of natural intuition would be, for instance, sometimes we have an intuition regarding how another person is feeling, regardless of how they might be acting. Maybe they're acting no different than they usually act, but because we have this natural intuition, we can oftentimes pick up on some things about that person that might not be detected on the surface. Another example would be um, right before a big fight is about to happen, we might have an intuition um, based on all of the information that we have, how that fight or battle or war might manifest itself. Again, these are all natural intuitions, and we all have the ability to uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Exercise, to exercise this ability. Some people are highly intuitive in the natural sense. Others are not very intuitive at all. Intuition is something that grows, no question about it. But when we start getting into the deeper questions, questions like, where did I come from? Where am I going? What is the purpose of life? And there are many, many questions like this that we all ask. One of my personal intuitions, and I have many, is that we know a lot more than we think we know, but we don't know it. This knowing that we have is a fundamental intuition that is built within every single one of us, deeper down than our basic natural intuitions. For a moment, I will refer to the divine as God. I generally do not use that term, but I will use it for this conversation because it makes it a little bit easier for the viewer to understand what I'm trying to say. When we are talking about God, we generally take God at face value based upon whatever it is that our religion tells us. Excuse me for one moment. I'm going to just turn this light down a little bit. Continue. Christianity, for instance, teaches about God the way they understand God. Islam teaches God in the way that they understand God. The Jews teach God the way that they understand God. Within this kind of understanding, obviously we have contradiction, ambiguity, and a whole lot of confusion. Because one religion is saying one thing, another religion is saying another thing. And if you're born into any one of these religions and you're brought up that way, usually we don't question the system, but it should be questioned. There is an ability that is bestowed upon those whom have this awakening experience that I've been talking about. With that awakening experience comes an uncanny ability to intuit things that are not ordinarily intuited. For instance, I'll give you an example. I have very acute intuition regarding the beginnings of all things. I have a very sharp intuition regarding the business of how reality works. I have an intuition regarding the nature, the real nature of what is often called heaven and hell. I have an intuition regarding cosmic vibration. These are only a few of these intuitions that sort of drop in. I don't know how to explain it. these things seem to just drop in from nowhere. But they are based on what we already know. Now, by definition, generally, an intuition usually is defined as knowing something that should not ordinarily be known because we don't have enough to go on. But I think it's important that we understand that on the smaller scale, there are hints, hunches, details that allow the intuitor to have these sharp intuitions. I would like to illustrate with a balloon. I don't have a balloon with me, but just imagine a balloon on a string. Let's say that I had a balloon here and I held it on a string, and the balloon is floating in the air on the string. There are two understandings primarily of this balloon. Most people, when they see the balloon, they see it as an exterior object and they call it a balloon. But is a balloon a balloon? Well, you say that it's a balloon. You describe it as a balloon. But a balloon is a shape-shifted object. The string that is tied to the balloon is a shape-shifted object. The clothes that I wear right now are shape-shifted objects. The books behind me are shape-shifted objects. And even the human being themselves are shape-shifted objects. There is the exterior understanding of the fundamentals of what we have here on this planet and within this universe. And then there is the interior understanding of the same. I could look at the balloon and I could say, oh, a balloon. And I take the balloon and I give it to the child. Say, here, enjoy the balloon. And the child runs off with the balloon and they have a great time. But again, there is an interior understanding of the same thing. The interior understanding of the fact that the balloon is made up of the earth. The string very likely comes from some sort of a plant. Maybe it comes from an animal. Maybe if it's made out of cotton or something like that, it comes from the cotton plant. Maybe it's made out of wool. It comes from the wool of the lamb. Could be fishing string, like a plastic kind of string, which would be a form of plastic. Usually, plastic has some sort of petroleum uh, that makes it what it is. The point is that all of these elements are coming from the earth. The balloon itself, made out of the rubbery material, this too is coming from the earth. Rubber generally is either coming from a rubber tree, or maybe it is oftentimes what we call polymers are fabricated in one way or another, manipulated, if you will, to be what we want them to be. The point that I'm making is that it comes from the earth, and it is a shape-shifted thing. This is an interior understanding as opposed to the exterior understanding of a mere balloon. You say, well, okay, that's really interesting, John, but what's that got to do with anything? I mean, you're boring the snot out of me, John. Come on, get with it. All right, let's get into some deep stuff. Religion looks at God like a child looks at a balloon. They are told what God is. They are told about the nature of God, the will of God, and a whole bunch of other things about God. But they have a very exterior understanding of this God concept. Generally speaking, this kind of understanding has a name. This is exoteric understanding. Most of the literature that we read within basic standard religion, be it Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever, is exoteric, an outside understanding of the topic, God. But is this all there is to know? And the answer is a resounding know. Is it possible to get inside and understand the inner mechanics, of what God is? Is it possible to experience the heart of God, the mind of God, the intent of God, and so on, and so on? This is the difference between our natural intuitions and spiritual intuitions. I'll give you an example. Earlier, I had mentioned some of the things, and there are many, but there are some of the things that I have written down here that I wanted to share, that I have a very sharp intuition regarding. Uh, Anyways, let's move on. One of these things is heaven and hell. Now, I don't have a whole lot of time. Let me just make this quick. On the exterior, outer understanding, religious understanding of heaven and hell, they are taken very literally. They talk about heaven and hell, everybody listens, and then they act. Period. Done. That's it. Esoteric understanding goes much, much deeper. Why? This is a little bit difficult to explain, but let me try my best. Within Christianity, for instance, we are taught about heaven and hell, and nobody ever asks a question. We aspire heaven, and we don't want to go to hell. But yet at the same time, we are of the understanding that God is omnipresent, meaning that God is all places at all times. Are you ready? The person with deep spiritual, esoteric intuition knows intuitively that heaven and hell are within the divine. They are within the divine. They cannot possibly be outside of the divine. Because if they were outside of the divine, then the omnipresence would be negated. Once you tap in, once you realize, once you accept this truth, then it starts to unravel other truths. I'm only giving you this little tiny piece of the puzzle. And I'm going to leave it right there. I could expand on it, and we would be here all day long. But I'm not going to do that. I am only bringing it up to illustrate that there is a difference between the knowledge and understanding of God in the exoteric way, the what theologians call the transcendent way, that I'm down here and God is up there. But then there is the esoteric understanding that takes a closer look at this idea of us being down here and God being up there, and it begins to dig deeper. The esoteric intuition discovers the truth that it's not only transcendent, but it is very immanent. This thing that we call God is not just up there. It pervades virtually everything that exists. From the tiniest particle to the vastness of the universe. Thank you for listening today. You've been watching Numinous Wind, and my name is Brother John. Have a nice day.